I played it for her in the car, and she was like, David, this song is too violent. You're talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son.
Breaking twist. The FBI just flipped the story everyone thought they knew. For weeks, the internet painted David as the villain behind the tragic death of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But after agents tore through his Hollywood Hills base and pulled data from his Tesla, the evidence map isn't as straight line as it looked. The car might be a container, the house might hold clues, but neither on its own proves who did this. It started like a nightmare script. A black Tesla sat too long on a hill street. Neighbors complained about the smell, it got towed, and impound staff opened the front trunk to a bag with human remains. The vehicle was registered to David. ID came a week later thanks to a small "shh" tattoo on Celeste's right index finger. Now the Fed angle raises a colder question. If the data shows someone else moved that car and parked it less than 100 feet from the house David used, was this a setup by someone who knew exactly where the blame would land? The first phase felt simple. On September 8, 2025, tow yard staff followed a foul smell to a black Tesla with Texas plates, towed from the Hollywood Hills after more than 72 hours on the curb. When they opened the front trunk, they found a bag with human remains in advanced decomposition. The car was registered to David. Identification took more than a week, but a small "shh" tattoo on the right index finger helped confirm the victim as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division took over immediately. Then federal agents stepped in. According to investigators, the FBI was brought onto the task force for 3 reasons: potential interstate movement, Celeste's home, the Hills address, and David's travel spanned multiple jurisdictions. The volume of digital evidence, phones, laptops, cloud backups, car telematics, and the need to lock down chain of custody across agencies. Once looped in, the Bureau's first moves were standard but aggressive. Mirror images of seized devices, emergency preservation orders to platforms hosting Discord, cloud, and social backups, and legal process for the Tesla's telematics, door events, frunk opens, Bluetooth pairings, last drive times, and charge sessions. They also requested neighborhood video canvases, ring cams, garage cams, municipal polls, plus cell site records to map which phones were in the pocket of the car as it moved. The tone shifted after agents compared these datasets to the calendar. David had been on tour for more than a month before the discovery. That alone doesn't clear anyone. Cars move without owners and access can be shared, but it forced a more careful read of the timeline. The FBI message to partners was blunt. A search warrant means a location likely holds evidence. It is not a declaration that the occupant is the killer. After the impound exam and the Hills House raid, agents said the picture could support 2 tracks at once. Track 1, David had access, contact, and motive points through the digital trail. Track 2, someone else could have used his car and his proximity to stage the dump, betting the optics would do the rest. To sort that out, the Bureau widened the grid. They pulled historical access logs for all vehicles in David's name, not just the Model 3 in impound. They asked rideshare companies for drop-offs near the Hills address in the final parking window. They compared house Wi-Fi connection logs to phones later seen inside the Tesla. They requested purchase histories for cleaning supplies and gloves around the key dates, and they flagged any deletion spikes on synced devices after the tow notice. In parallel, they worked with the medical examiner to tighten the post-mortem interval, how long Celeste had been deceased, so the car movement timeline could be compared to tour stops, flights, and hotel check-ins. Bottom line from the FBI after the raids: the car is a container of evidence, and the Hills House is a probable evidence site, but neither alone names the killer. The case will turn on whether telematics, phone location data, and lab results place the same person with Celeste's remains and with the Tesla in the final movements, or whether those trails split, which would give real weight to a setup theory instead of just talk. The Tesla was dumped less than 100 feet from a house rented by David's manager and used by David. Local detectives seized phones, computers, and hard drives, and forensics brought luminol to test drains, grout, and surfaces. In the public mind, that distance looked like a confession, but the FBI flagged a practical issue. People who want to hide a crime do not usually park a body within sight of a place tied to them. They put distance between themselves and the evidence. Parking a car almost on the doorstep can mean panic, carelessness, or a message. It can also mean the driver wanted the blame to land there. Agents mapped cameras, door rings, garage sensors, and Wi-Fi pings along the block. They pulled Tesla telematics to see when doors and the front trunk opened and who connected a phone to the car. They looked at rideshare drops near the address and cell towers that hit at the moment the car was abandoned. The early read is this: if the car was moved like neighbors said, hopping spots for weeks, there may have been more than one driver. If the final park job happened during a window when David was verifiably on stage in another city, that matters. If a different device paired to the car or connected to the house Wi-Fi right before it was left, that matters too. The Bureau is building a movement map that treats the house and the street as a cluster, not a conclusion. There is a long online trail between David and Celeste. It starts on kid platforms, shifts to Discord, and shows up in live streams that later got deleted. Moderators have claimed they thought she was older. A teacher says Celeste told classmates she met him around 13 and ran away to Hollywood. Her brother says the last time he saw her, she left for a movie with David in a black Tesla. There are matching tattoos. There's a demo titled Celeste and release dates that fall on her birthday. To the public, that stack feels like an answer. The FBI is splitting it into 2 buckets. Bucket 1 is relationship and access. That includes chats, calls, joint streams, photos, and any travel that put them together. It goes to grooming, age, and contact. Bucket 2 is homicide and disposal. That includes when Celeste died, where, who handled her body, who put it in the car, and who parked the car. Agents say Bucket 1 can be strong, while Bucket 2 points to a different hand at the end. That is why they are running device timelines minute by minute. Who unlocked the Tesla when it was last moved? Whose face is on nearby cameras? Which phone rode with the car? Which door sensor at the Hills house opened at the same time? They are also testing whether someone close to David could have mixed both buckets on purpose, leaning on the public story of their link to make a planted scene look convincing. If the digital evidence splits, David in contact but not present at the final movement, the setup theory gets weight. If it aligns, contact, and presence, the original narrative stands. There has been a lot of heat around the case. Brands pulled out, the label paused releases, tours collapsed. A private investigator floated overdose as a possible cause of death, while stressing she did not end up in the Tesla by herself. Claims surfaced that David's manager knew in 2024 she was listed missing. A bodyguard's name entered the chatter. David's mother was photographed leaving a gun shop in Texas, which added noise. None of that answers the core questions the FBI is working. Agents care about autopsy findings, time since death, trace evidence from the Hills house, and the car's data. They care about who parked the Tesla outside that address and when. They care about whether the same device that sent messages to Celeste later rode with the car to its final spot. They care about whether blood or tissue turns up in drains, whether a cleaning spike shows up in purchase logs, and whether files or chats were deleted right after the tow notice. Until those answers stack one way, the Bureau is not naming a primary. Their position after the raids is simple. A search means there is likely evidence in a place. It does not mean the person tied to that place is the killer. The setup angle sits on the table next to the original one, and the next lab report, car log, or camera timestamp will decide which one survives. The FBI is stacking every timestamp it can touch, then laying them on one master line. They pulled the Tesla's telematics to see door opens, front trunk opens, gear shifts, speeds, park events, charge sessions, and any phone that paired to the car's Bluetooth during those moments. They matched that to house data from routers and mesh pods around the Hollywood Hills address to see which devices shook hands with the Wi-Fi as the car was left on the block. Next, they overlaid cell site records and app pings to trace where key phones were minute by minute. On top of that, they added travel logs from airlines, hotel key swipes, venue access control, and backstage scans that show where David physically was when the Tesla last moved. This is the Bureau's one-person test. Do the same device identifiers, faces on cameras, and location pings repeat at Celeste's last known movements at the Hills house and inside the Tesla during the dump window, or do those trails split right at the end? If the phone that messaged Celeste rides in the Tesla to the final park spot and then connects to the house Wi-Fi, that fuses contact and disposal. If a different device appears only for the dump, the setup theory gets oxygen. Agents will not guess. They will let the clocks decide. Federal investigators are building a full access map before they point a finger. They pulled records for every vehicle in David's name or control, not just the Model 3 at the impound. They asked Tesla for digital key sharing logs to see who was granted app access, when those permissions were created, and whether they were revoked after the tow. They subpoenaed garage and gate code histories tied to the Hills house, plus smart lock door events to see who came and went in the days before the car was abandoned. They interviewed the inner circle manager, security, drivers, assistants, collaborators, and cross-checked their phone locations against the house and the car. They also ran purchase histories for bleach, contractor bags, nitrile gloves, tape, and disposable coveralls near the key dates, and matched those receipts to phones on the move. Access is not guilt, but it narrows the pool to people who could move a Tesla without breaking in, park it less than 100 feet from the house, and then walk away without leaving a trail of obvious damage. If someone outside that pool appears on cameras or Wi-Fi during the dump window, the Bureau will zero in on how they got keys, codes, or app control. Cause of death is deferred until the lab work is done, and the FBI is fine with that. They want the full kit toxicology, histology, entomology for time since death estimates, and trace exams on clothing and bagging. While the medical examiner works, federal labs are running parallel tests on the Tesla and the Hills house. Swabs from the frontliner, latch, bag ties, and door handles go through DNA and touch DNA workflows. Vacuum lifts and tape lifts look for fibers, hair, and soil that can be compared to carpets, drains, and traps at the house. Luminol and phenolphthalein screens at the residents flag potential blood, then confirmatory tests follow. If drains pop, they can section traps and run mitochondrial DNA to look for human origin. The Bureau's evidence team is strict about chain of custody. Every lift, every swab, every file image is logged and sealed so the case survives court challenges. When the lab package comes back, agents will lock the scientific results to the device timeline and ask a blunt question. Do the biology and the clocks name the same hands? This is the part the public doesn't see. The FBI will push all of these streams' car logs, router logs, cell and app data, camera timestamps, card swipes, lab reports into a fusion chart that shows people, places, and minutes. If a gap exists in the street cameras, they backfill with doorbells and private garage feeds. If a phone appears in the wrong place at the right time, they pull its cloud backups and look for deletion spikes or factory resets. If a device went dark, they compare that silence to changing towers on a burner phone. On the legal side, they've already run preservation orders and subpoenas. If the evidence crosses state lines or shows coordinated cover-up, a federal grand jury is the next move. That lets prosecutors compel testimony, test stories under oath, and lock people to timelines. At the same time, agents will keep two theories alive until the data kills one. Theory A says the person with digital access also did the disposal. Theory B says someone piggybacked on that access to stage a dump where it would point to David. The decision will not come from headlines, brand statements, or opinions. It will come from synchronized clocks and clean lab hits. Here's the federal picture as it stands. Celeste was found in the front trunk of a Tesla registered to David, abandoned less than 100 feet from a house he used. The FBI joined to handle interstate reach and the scale of digital evidence, then pulled telematics, router logs, cell and app data, travel records, cameras, and a deep lab package from the car and the house. Their job now is to see whether the same device and the same hands connect contact with Celeste to the final movement of the Tesla, or whether a different device and different hands appear only for the dump. When those clocks and lab results line up, one story will collapse.